Hey everyone, today we're going to be taking a look at the Witcher 3 Blood and Wine expansion that just released for the PC and the PlayStation 4, but I'm not going to be looking at it on the PlayStation 4. I already did a Witcher 3 comparison and review last year, so this is just a quick look at it on the Potato Masher. If you don't know, the Potato Masher is a $375 PC, custom built in 2014 and designed to compete against the PS4 for the rest of its life cycle. Now, The Witcher 3 is one of the better looking open world RPGs, and I absolutely love the art style, but it is pretty demanding, and when the game came out last year, it ran really well in the Potato Masher and looked better than the PS4 version, but it wasn't perfect. So after a year of patches and improvements and refinements, and with this new expansion where CD Projekt Red has talked about various graphical improvements they've made, I was curious to see how it ran and to see if there were any major differences now that a year has passed. Also, the Potato Masher now meets the minimum RAM requirements of the game. It ran before with 4 gigs of RAM where the game required 6 and it actually worked fine. Now with 8 gigs of RAM, you can see it's using about 5.5, but the more RAM you have, the more Windows will set aside, so that's not that surprising. So starting out in this first section of the game, I am wandering through the city at very high settings just to see if that's possible at 30 FPS. And it is, as long as you're okay with a couple drops. This is a little bit better than it ran last year. It dropped a little bit more into the mid-20s, and now it's just dropping every once in a while into the high 20s, and most of the time it stays at 30 FPS great. Now, the city normally is the most complicated part of the game to run, and it normally hurts the frame rate the most. If you remember, Novigrad in The Witcher 3 was the most demanding section, so in theory, this should mean you can roam throughout the rest of Toussaint without any issues at very high settings. But I went ahead and dropped the settings down to high just to see the difference, and as normally is the case with games, high doesn't really look any worse than very high. There's a couple small differences that eagle-eyed people can spot, but for the average gamer, you're not really going to notice a big difference once you get used to it and you're just playing the game. So at high settings, the game had plenty of performance left over and ran really well, so I would highly recommend this if you have similar hardware. Moving on, I was not able to run the game at 1080p 60 FPS when it first launched, even at very low settings, because the frame rate would just drop all the time. So I switched the game over to 60 FPS and very low, and it ran better than it did last year. There are still some frame rate drops into the 40s and 50s, so I would say it still isn't a great 60 FPS experience at 1080p. But it was better, so if you were okay playing with a variable frame rate, it actually isn't that terrible of an option now, although personally I think the level of pop-in and graphical bugs are way too high at very low settings, so I wouldn't play the game that way. I would rather play at 30 FPS. But last time, dropping to 900p didn't fix the issue. This time, it did. At low settings, at 900p, the game actually holds to 60 FPS pretty well. There still are a few drops, but these are only for 1 or 2 FPS, and at low settings, a lot of the major pop-in issues are fixed. So I will say that if you want to play The Witcher 3 at 60 FPS on similar hardware, you can do it. The Potato Masher can do it. You know, obviously 1080p is better than 900p, but this doesn't look that bad. This doesn't look like 720p, which is what I had to resort to last time, so this is also a bit of an improvement. Moving on to 1440p, you can play it at medium and 30 FPS, runs pretty well. You can drop it to low if you want a little extra performance left over, because at medium settings it's pretty much maxing the graphics card out the entire time. So I understand that that may not be what a lot of people want to do. That is going to make the fan on the graphics card run pretty much continuously at a very high setting. You're going to hear it, everything's going to be hotter, and the frame rate is going to drop a little bit more. I kind of like to keep things in the high 80s to mid 90s of GPU usage percentage if I can. So I probably would drop the settings to low if I was going to play at 1440p, or do a mixture of low and medium. Now, of course, all of these are without Hairworks, because not only does it take an inordinate amount of performance off of the graphics card to run Hairworks, but I actually don't think it looks that great. I know I might be in the minority there, but I really don't think it's worth it. And then, as usual, 4K doesn't work with this game. It didn't work originally, it doesn't work now, it's just too demanding. This is a really great looking game, and the Potato Masher just is not capable of running it at 4K. But just to give you guys a treat, I went ahead and bumped all the settings up to their absolute highest, including Hairworks, and I turned the resolution up to 4K just so you could watch the Potato Masher cry at 5 FPS, because it's fun. How about that downgrade though? Alright, if you enjoyed this video, you can support me and the channel and the Potato Masher by tossing me a few bucks on Patreon. You can follow me on Twitter You can check out the Casual Shenanigans Gaming Podcast, or you can check out all the rest of the Potato Masher videos, all the tests I've done, all the previews, everything like that, by clicking on the links on screen. Thank you guys for watching. I'll be back to a normal test next time, and have a great day.